Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Sleepless Ninja. So this is a complete tutorial from start to finish on how to root your Nexus 7. I go step by step into the setup in the first part. Then if you're having any driver issues with connecting ADB to your Nexus 7, I have a phase on how to resolve that issue. Third, I discuss unlocking the bootloader, and 4 finally is installing the Clockwork mod recovery and booting into recovery and rooting your Zoom using it. So there's 4 phases. This is rather lengthy because I go into the details of each, but I feel that it's necessary to show how each portion works, especially the pre-setup, because there really isn't a complete video out there that I've seen yet, and this is something that's been really requested. Enjoy. Today I'm going to show you how to install Fastboot and ADB. Both of these are a part of the Android SDK. What are these used for? This is used for rooting your device. This is used for unlocking the bootloader, restoring a factory image. And heavily in development when you're trying to develop an application. You will use this. So we begin by going in our browser and going to developer.android.com. At this website, there's a drop-down list right next to the developer's name, and you want to click on that drop-down list. And you can see, get the SDK, click right there, and now you're to a page where you can download the SDK for Windows. Now this guide is only for Windows. If you have a Mac or a Linux computer, this guide is not for you. I do have some videos, but they're not as detailed. My plan is to make one for each, so keep on checking and keep posted, and you will see those guides coming out shortly. So when the file is done, you want to run it. It is an executable, and if you have to allow any permissions, just yes the permissions. And here we will begin installing the Android SDK toolkit. Now this is a wizard, so it makes things a little bit easier. And just go next, and then you're going to get to this point where it's going to either say that it detects the Java development kit and it's just going to continue, or it will say it does not exist. So what you're going to want to do is click on that button and go to the website here, and then just download the basic Java JDK. And this is necessary to run the Android SDK. I'm highlighting it on the screen, and this particular file, just make sure that you download the one for your system. So if you have a 64-bit operating system, if you're not sure, just do the x86 on Windows and it will work on either system. And you want to do the same thing. Let's save it, let's download it. When it's finished, run the executable right from the download. Yes to accept the permissions if your computer prompts you. And you're just going to be clicking next through the installer. You do have the choice of choosing installation areas and things like that. Just go with the basic. Unless you are, tech savvy, then you can change the path and all of that. Just because the basic way, it just works. Now if you go in changing the path, sometimes the installer can mess up. And if you don't know how to specify environment variables or paths, or have no idea what I'm talking about, then just don't deal with this. Stick with the basics. Let it install itself. During the install, it will prompt you again. Just continue on through, select all those settings, and you'll be driven to the next part of the installation. There's 2 things that you have to install. This is the Java FX that comes with the package, and just next through, keep the defaults just like before. When this installs, we want to go back to the Android SDK installer. And here, we're still going to get prompted that we need to install the JDK. To rectify this, all you have to do is press back and then go next again. It will then recognize the JDK, and we will continue on with the installation. You will be prompted to install it for just your user or all users. You might as well just install it for all users in the case that you make a new account or something like that. And then this is very important. We need to specify the path. We want to specify the path under your username. So under your users, C users, your username is where you want to make this path. It makes everything much easier in the end, just like it shows here in the video. Then you also want to do a backslash, just like on the screen, and write in Android-SDK. It actually can be anything, but just make it relate to the Android SDK so you know that is where it's located in your user profile. Then you just next do the rest of the setup and finally install the Android SDK. When you finish the install, you'll be prompted to finish and start the SDK Manager. Make sure that box is checked to start it. And in the SDK Manager, we want to focus on two things: the Tools folder and the Extras folder. In the Tools, make sure the SDK tools and the SDK platform tools are checked off. And in the Extra, make sure that the Google USB drivers are checked off. Now, for the tools, the platform tools that you're downloading are actually ADB and Fastboot in there, so that's how we're going to get them. And in the extras, the Google USB drivers, for any of your Google devices, it's going to be necessary to download this so you can communicate with it. If you don't have a Google device like the Galaxy Nexus or the Nexus 7 or any of the Nexuses, you will need to download the drivers from your manufacturer in order to get it to work with this Android SDK. So once you have those and ensure that they're checked off, you just want to install the packages. It does say 2 or 1. As long as they're all checked, it's fine, and install, because it might be that they're already installed by default. And once this is finished, you just want to hit close, and we are done installing the Android SDK. Congratulations. So let's just confirm this process by opening up my computer or Explorer and go to the C drive where we installed the Android SDK. Go to Users, go to our user name, and then find the Android SDK folder. Let's click in there, and then let's click in Platform Tools, and you will see there is ADB, and Fastboot. So now let's install the driver. When you plug in your device, what's going to happen is most likely the ADB is going to fail to initialize on your Windows computer. So this will take you step by step on installing the driver manually and getting everything working between your ADB on your PC to your Android Nexus 7 device. First, you want to hit Start. In your Start menu, typically on the right is My Computer. You want to right click on My Computer and then hit Manage in the options. My Computer also is available on the desktop for most users as well, so that's another option. Just manage, right clicking on it. Please make sure your device is plugged in, and then we're going to take a look at the device manager. Just click on it, and then you should see your device named right there in Other Devices with kind of a warning mark on it. This symbol basically means there's an issue with the driver. If you're still having issues and that symbol's not there, you can still follow these steps by right-clicking now on that device and then clicking in the option menu, Update Driver Software. There's a little bit of options here, but just follow closely to the screen and you really cannot go wrong. So first we want to browse My Computer for driver software. Once we click on that, we want to highlight Let me pick from the list of device drivers on my computer. So we're going to manually install the driver, basically, is what these options are doing. The next thing is we just want to make sure Show All Devices is highlighted and click on Next. Here we're actually going to now search manually for that file. So we're going to click on Have Disk. Then in the next menu, click on Browse. So now we are presented with a file explorer. There we need to go to the Android SDK and the Extras folder in there. That is where those USB drivers that we downloaded using the SDK Manager put them. So we're just going to browse and then go to our users, and then through the users we need to find our Android SDK folder that we created. In that SDK folder, then we want to find extras, and then go one more into extras, and you will see our driver right there. We click on it and accept. So now we just want to click on OK. And then we'll go back to a menu where we just want to click on Next now that we have our driver. And then it's going to prompt us, are you sure you want to install this driver? And we just want to verify and say install. After the installation, you are all set. Congratulations, your ADB drivers are now installed, and you can begin the next phase. So now we're going to begin phase 3. And here is when we're going to unlock our bootloader. We have our device already connected. What you want to do first is go to your device and make sure that it is able to communicate with your PC. So, or your Mac or your Linux. I'm doing it on a PC for this guide. So what you need to go do is go to settings. So let's go to the settings, and then in settings, you want to go to developer options, enable, and then you want to go to USB debugging and click OK. For other operating systems in Android, they sometimes have it in apps, and then under apps, there is developer, or there is the USB debugging option right there in apps. So it depends on which version of the OS you have. For Jelly Bean, this is how you do it. And what you'll see is a little guy icon. For Jelly Bean, it's that little cute little Jelly Bean that says USB debugging connected. That's all you need to know, and then let's move over to our PC. So what you want to do is hit the start, and in the search bar, or if you have an older, there's a run. Click on run, and then just type in there command and press enter. CMD. Command is kind of the long way of saying it. CMD, press enter. Now that will open up the horrible or scary for some terminal. But do not worry. Through the guide, I've given you easy steps, and I will continue with that, branching off what I've shown you in the past. So as you can see, we are at C users Schaefer at home, or C users your profile name. And we put our Android development kit in our profile name. So this is kind of like a file explorer. So we're going to quickly just press dir, and you can see our Android SDK is right there. So what we want to do is now go into our Android SDK. We want to browse into it. So this is like typing wise how you can get into your different directories on your computer. So what we want to do is type CD and then the name of what we called our Android directory. You can see right there. I called it Android SDKS. Now I have two. This is the one that I'm using. Once we're in Android SDKS, we can type in dir again. If you're on a Mac or Linux, it's LS. The letter L, the letter S instead of dir. And you can see once again, we have our platform tools, and that's where our ADB and our fastboot is. So what we want to do is once again type CD platform dash tools. It's very simple if you just follow these steps one by one. You really can't do anything wrong with these commands. And then we'll do dir one more time just to see. There's our ADB, and then also there's our fastboot. So with this in place, and with our zoom over here, with connecting, we want to do one more step. We did this in the drivers, but just to test again, ADB devices. And this just shows that our device is there. ADB can detect it. So we're all set. Let's continue on with this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to type in ADB reboot, and then we want to say bootloader. So this is going to, when I press enter, this is going to reboot our Nexus 7, our Zoom, Google device from our PC into the bootloader mode. Okay, ADB space reboot space bootloader. Enter. And you can see our device turned off, and now it's back on in the bootloader menu. From this bootloader menu, we need to now enter another command. So let's type it in. Now, since we're in the bootloader, we're going to be using fast boot. Fast boot, and then we want to do OEM, and then we want to type in unlock. Okay? And we're going to press enter. And we're going to pop up this dialog, and in this dialog, it's basically saying, oh, you're going to void your warranty. So just, be aware of this. Read this over yourself before you make the decision. I'm not going to be responsible for it. This is all on you. And you can use the power button to select yes, or the volume button to go down, and then use the power button to select no. So we want to unlock it, and what's going to happen is this is going to clear everything. So remember that. When you're unlocking your bootloader, you lose everything. It wipes your disk clean. Please bear that in mind and back up the appropriate things before time. Okay? And now you're unlocked. And so what you want to do is, you can see right here, this should say start. Now if you use the volume rocker, you can see you can cycle through the options, but you want it to just say start, and you want to press the power to start our device. So we have successfully unlocked our bootloader, which is shown by that symbol on the Nexus 7. Depending on the other devices, it might not even show that. And we're going to boot up, and we have officially unlocked our bootloader. We are now on the fourth and final part. Root your Nexus 7 and install Clockwork Mod Recovery. In order to do this, just let your Nexus 7 fully boot to the start screen. The initialization things are there. Just work through that menu until you come back to the home screen. And this is where we begin. Let's root the Nexus 7. First off, we're going to go to our Nexus 7 that's already unlocked, and fresh from the unlock on its stage, we want to re-enable in our developer options our USB debugging, okay? We should see the little jelly bean guy up there. We're all familiar with it from the previous videos. Now, for the rooting, I really like to point out this guide. I don't directly follow it, but this is a perfect written example by FadedLite, who also gathered these details from Birdman. Please use this for text space and also to download the files that I also am using in this. Big props. I love the XDA developer community. Please, if you don't go there and you're rooting your Zoom, you need to go there. There is just a plethora of so many amazing articles there. Okay, so now for my rant and props to XDA, we want to download the Super User, SU. A little rant on Chainfire. If there's any other Super User that's not coming from Chainfire, don't download it. Make sure it's really from this particular place. And we want to download the zip. This is what's flashable through Clockwork Mod Recovery, which is the other thing that we're going to download. So back to our lovely XDA post. And we want to download Clockwork Mod Recovery. Just click here, and it's going to download. I already have them downloaded to save us time, so I'm going to go open up my files and go to my downloads folder. And you can see, here's my Super User, and here's the Clockwork Mod Recovery file, okay? So what we want to do, now that we have our Nexus 7 USB debugging enabled and it is on and connected, we're going to go to it, look at the internal storage, and we want to copy the file here. Just for posterity's sake, I'll paste it manually here just to see it. So you want to copy this Clockwork Mod Super User SU from the Chainfire onto your internal storage, just the root folder. When you go into your Nexus 7, it's just the root, okay? Then what you want to do is we want to go back to downloads, and we want to take this the Clockwork Mod Grouper Recovery. Let's copy this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our user profile, where our Android library is located. I emphasize putting it in the user profile. So we're going to go there, and we're going to go to my user profile name is Schaefer at Home, but for you it might be something different, whatever your username is. And then we're going to go to our Android SDK. I have two here. Just remember, this is just one that I made uniquely for us. But whatever your Android SDK is, go in there and then go into the platform tools. Then let's paste it in here. And then you can see I have it pasted right here. Our CWM grouper recovery. Okay? Now with all of that, we are all set to begin the root. So we just need the super user on our Nexus, and we need our grouper in our platform tools folder. Okay? So let's pull up our command prompt, cmd in the search, or in run if you're running like XP. And here we go. And what we want to first type in is we want to go into the bootloader. So we want to type in adb reboot bootloader. All right, and press enter. Oh, what did I do? I did not navigate to the Android SDK. Remember that. So dir. Now we see where our Android SDK is right here, as pointed out on the screen. And we're going to do cd Android-SDKS. And then cd space platform tools. Okay. Now some of you might be saying, well, why didn't you put it in your environment variable path and blah, 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 blah. It is. However, for most people, that's a lot of complex steps, and I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. That's the only reason why. Ideally, yes, you would just have it in your path, and that's what I do normally on a day-to-day basis, which is why, again, I have those two separate folders. So just for the technical people out there, that's why I did that. That's why I have two different Android SDKs and all of that. Now, back to the actual rooting process. So now that we are in, you can see there's our ADB, there's our fast boot, and we also have our grouper recovery image, okay? And just to test if our device is recognized, we'll type in ADB devices, okay? Enter. And you can see our device is there. So once again, we're going to type in ADB reboot bootloader and press enter. And so you can see our Nexus 7 rebooted, and now we want to flash Clockwork Mod Recovery, okay? So in order to flash Clockwork Mod Recovery, we are going to use fastboot, okay? So we're going to type in fastboot. We're going to then type flash space recovery space, and then we're going to type in the file. So we're going to type in exactly that file name, okay? So it's cwm-grouper-recovery.img. Now, make sure the spelling and everything is correct. These are one of the things that you can input that actually could affect SoftBrick, your device. So just make sure the file name and the commands match up. Just a recommendation. And sorry about the wraparound. And then press enter. Okay, and so now on our Nexus 7, we flashed Clockwork Mod, and what we want to do is on our Nexus 7, just navigate using the arrow to recovery mode and use the power button to select it. So you navigate using the volume to recovery mode and then press power to open up recovery mode. And now this is a touch-based recovery for those of you that are not familiar. Now there's one step that we have to do here. It's temporary, but we have to go in to Mount and Storage. Just tap it. It's really cool. And we want to go to Mount System. Now, once system is mounted, what we want to do is we want to migrate a recovery file, because if we don't do this, we're going to lose the recovery that we just flashed. And so, just so you can see it on the screen as well, what I'm going to do is first type in ADB shell, and this is going to take us into shell. Now you'll see it looks a little bit different. We have this ampersand hash. So we're in the shell, and we want to press CD, then space / system, and we want to press enter. Make sure you're mounted at this point, that you mounted the system, by the way, or this won't work and it will give you an error. And then what you want to type in now that we're in system is MV for move recovery dash from dash boot dot p recovery dash from dash boot dot back. Okay? So make sure, again, it's one of those things where you should just double check that we match up. Okay? And it looks like we are good. And we're going to press enter. And you can see here that I came across a problem. So this happens sometimes, and I'm glad it happened on this one because now we can see it in the video. So when we're doing the move, we're trying to move this file and replace this other file. And you can see that I kind of pulled up in the shell the files, and there is no recovery from boot.p. It doesn't exist. So that's why we're getting that no file or directory. So this sometimes happens following this method. So there are a couple solutions. Right now, what this means is I can only use Clockwork Mod Recovery this one time, then I have to reflash it and fix it. So what I'm going to do is just install SuperUser, and then after the fact, install Clockwork Mod Recovery using ROM Manager. And that, for everyone, should fix their issues. So in order to exit the shell, because we're in the shell and not the normal command, Windows command, we want to press Control on the keyboard, CTRL, usually on the bottom left, and then C, and it'll exit the shell, and we're back into where we can type our ADB and fastboot commands. All right, then back on this device, let's unmount the system, and to go back, all you have to do is press the power button on your device, and then we want to install zip from SD card, okay? And then we want to choose a zip from the SD card. And then you can see that file we dragged into the internal storage is right here. And we want to install it. The touch interface is great. Big props. I think Kush did this, and it's phenomenal. And there we go. We installed SuperUser. So what we want to do next is go back using the power button and reboot the system. So we're all done for the PC side. So we no longer need our PC, so we'll stop looking at that and we'll just focus on the Zoom. Excuse me, the Nexus 7. I'm going to do this to eternity, and I'm going to get so many nagging troll comments. I can already see it now. Okay, so now that we're started back up, I am just going to take a second to register onto the Google Play Store, and so I can use that to download the appropriate apps. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So first, just to show you, Super SU is installed. So kudos for that. Now, let's go to our Play Store. Okay. Oops, sorry, wrong thing. And what we want to do in the Play Store is download ROM Manager. Let's open it up. Okay. And the other thing, while we're at it, let's download BusyBox. For your rooted device, BusyBox is a must. It's a suite of things that run in the back end that really help in a lot of different situations. Things that are very transparent to you that you don't even realize. Just download it and install it. Many of the ROMs just have this pre-installed. It's going to ask for root. It's the first time we were. This kind of shows that our device is rooted. And let's just install. Experiencing some lag or something, huh? There we go. Let's install it. All right, once it's installed, let's exit out. Let's go back to ROM Manager. And what we want to do is we want to flash Clockwork Mod Recovery, okay? We want to just confirm this is the Google Nexus 7. Grant. All right. And we don't want any in-app purposes. Let's just reboot into recovery. And there we go. This is not a touch one, but you can now manually flash the zip of the touch one and you'll be all set. Okay? Well, that concludes our tutorial. You now have root, you have now Clockwork Mod Recovery, you have BusyBox. This is all the building blocks to having a nice rooted device to do all the sorts of things that you wanted to do with it. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.